Welcome to this week's GCN Tech Clinic, where we aim to answer your bike, tech and maintenance related questions. As always, you can submit your questions in the comments section down below using the hashtag AskGCNTech, and we'll do our very best to answer as many as possible within the allotted time.
Right then, let's get started. And this one has been sent in first and foremost by Riley 8-4. Is there anything to look for in buying butyl tubes for performance, i.e. are there certain butyl tubes that have less rolling resistance, or are they all created equally?
Number one, don't look at a butyl tube if you want to maximise performance. Number two, they're not all created equally. Look, if you want to optimise your inner tubes, be that for weight, rolling resistance, or any other factor, to be honest, butyl is not necessarily the best way to go. The latest tech is TPE, a thermoplastic polymer, which typically is the lightest and thinnest option out there. And then latex is slightly heavier than a TPE tube, but arguably slightly faster rolling. Now, the difference between prices is what separates these things out. And I would say, if you're really set on going for a butyl tube, there are certain ones out there that perform much better than others. Typically, you want to look for a big name brand, one that's got like a thinner material and thinner lining. And there are quite a lot of independent sources online that have tested all of these things and can give you your answer. But if it was me, and I upgrade my inner tubes, I'd go for the thinnest, lightest TPE tube I can get my hands on.
There you go. Hope that answers your question, Riley. Next one's been sent in by Taylor Brenson 191. Can I run a Shimano 12-speed crank set with the rest of the group set being 11-speed? I'm trying to reduce my crank length, and there is a lack of 11-speed cranks with 165 crank arms in my market.
What are you thinking, Connor?
I think it's you're okay.
Yeah, you're perfectly right. Of course you can. Whilst you can't mix up the speeds in terms of like the cassettes or something, 11 and 12 speed, the crank sets and chain rings, while Shimano wouldn't officially recommend it, it's going to work perfectly fine. And in fact, all of the warranted cranks that Shimano had to send out to everybody are essentially the new 12-speed cranks with just 11-speed written on them. So they obviously think it's okay.
There you go. There you go.
Next question is from Yukira. They say, currently running, another group set question. Ultegra 12-speed Di2. Is it possible to use or transfer the 10-tooth on a mountain bike cassette to the road cassette, because the 11-tooth feels it's a bit light in the sprints? Crikey, how fast are they going? Or should they upgrade from a 54 to a 56-tooth chainring at the front? So first and foremost, if you wanted to increase your gearing, would you look at the cassette or chainrings first? What would be your preference?
Well, if I'm looking to up it for faster speeds, then I'd go front chainring, change that first and foremost, if you're lacking a bit of speed in that department, because you're going to get a nicer chain line as well.
That's exactly what I would do. And in terms of putting the 10-tooth mountain bike sprocket onto the road cassette, it's not possible.
Yeah.
The free hub bodies are totally different. In theory, you might be able to get the mountain bike 12-speed cassette to work if you could have the free hub body that fitted onto your road bike wheels, but my instinct is telling me stick to a road cassette. If you want bigger gearing, use the chainring options.
You don't want to mess around in that gear either when you're putting down the power and sprinting out the saddle.
No. For me, the 10-tooth is average.
Yeah.
Right, go on.
Frederic Ude, 25. Hi, beautiful people. I'm planning my longest ride this summer, 200k, with 1,800 meters of climbing.
Oh, boy.
Should I go with my gravel bike that's 2k heavier but has a better gear ratio, 12 kilos, 30-34 ratio Sora, or my road bike, which is 10 kilos, 34-30 ratio, 105, at which point gear ratio more important than weight on longer hilly rides? Love you, bye. All right, I'm just getting my head around these gear ratios. So 30-34 is the easiest on the gravel bike.
Yeah.
34-30 on the road bike. I think it depends how steep the hills are. Like, if there's lots of really steep, sharp hills, you're doing a nice, long, steady ride. Personally, I would go for the bike that has the gear ratio for the job, so you're able to spin when you need to. That's going to make it more enjoyable.
I wouldn't worry about the difference of 2 kilograms between the bike weight. Do you know what my heart is telling me I would do?
Grab a bike.
No, right? I'm going to throw a small curveball in there. I would run the gravel bike with the gravel bike gearing, but put my road bike wheels in the gravel bike.
There you go.
Then you've got slightly more relaxed geometry. You've got the right gearing for going slower, and you've got faster tyres.
There you go. That's a good shout, actually. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. Personally, do what's more comfortable, I'd say, overall. Yeah,
do you know, I was just thinking what Si would say, but ride the bike that you're going to have the biggest smile on your face.
Yeah. That's a good answer. There you go. I hope that helps Frederic.
Leo-II8NB says, I was thinking about getting a carbon saddle, but I'm currently running a 7x7mm setup on my seat tube. I'm guessing he's talking about the clamp. Sadly, the company, Kyoto, went bankrupt, can't get any original clamps. How likely is it that a 7x9mm clamp that looks similar to the other one I'm using will fit? Well, I'm going to say it's incredibly unlikely.
Yeah, that's a tough find.
Clamps on seat tubes are all so different.
I think it's going to be a tough find.
I wouldn't be rushing to upgrade from metal seat rails to carbon ones. I mean, it's cool if you want to just upgrade and change the parts, but I feel like it's not drastically going to change your bike, really.
Yeah, it's a lot of trouble for a small little update.
Yeah. If you wanted to get a saddle that's like tiny bit lighter or something a bit more fancy because you're interested in that, there's lots of saddles. There's the option of getting titanium rails, and they're round as well, so they'll fit on there.
That's a good shout.
Easy.
Nice one. Right, Toby Bachelor 628. I am left-handed and always struggle to complete maintenance or repairs on my bikes. Are bikes set up to favour right-handed people for maintenance? I
got no idea, but I have a feeling you kind of do know this.
Well, I don't really know, but it's a really interesting point. So I delved into this a while back on the channel, looking at why the drivetrain is always on the right-hand side of the bike. And one of the potential reasons is that most people are right-handed, and that is like early tools were developed to be a right-handed thread.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it was easier to work on with your right hand. And that then led down through the ages, and we see that on the bikes that we ride today, a lot of the threads are right-threaded.
I literally just Googled how many people are right-handed. About 85 to 90% of the population are right-handed.
Yeah, so, and whether that means it's easier or not to work on a bike, I'm right-handed myself, so I find it really hard to like.
I think it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If the drivetrain was on the other side, you'd consider putting the rear shifter on the other side, so that when you're like pedaling the bike, you can access the rear gears a bit easier on a stand or something. But just throwing some random thoughts out there.
As right-handed people, we must take it for granted how easy it is to work on a right-handed thread, and if you're left-handed, it must be a bit frustrating. So,
spare a thought for the left-handed people.
There you go. My son is left-handed as well.
Spare a thought for him. No, you should do. You should switch his gear levers around his bike, and then it'd have the right-hand shifter would be the front derailleur. Does he even have a front derailleur?
It's just working out how to use brakes. Thankfully.
Yeah, I'm a step ahead here, sorry. Right, D-Brewed Tattoo next. They say, well, wider tyres do help, and nobody was on them 10 years ago. And they say there's still no evidence whether the benefits outweigh the losses, presumably of wider tyres. That is a matter that should be investigated. Well, I completely agree, and I'm currently investigating it at the moment. So the other week I actually took a bunch of tyres to Silverstone Wind Tunnel to test the difference in aerodynamics and how tyre width affects that. Gravel and road tyres I took, and I even tested the new 40mm Pirelli P0 road tyre. Interesting result, actually. It surprised me. And I'm also going back in a few weeks' time to put those big chunky road bike tyres on the pedalling efficiency rig to see how the rolling resistance changes, but not only on smooth surfaces, also on rough surfaces as well, because rough surfaces are where wider tyres are going to excel.
So, interesting. I'll be interested in the results of that.
Yeah, if you want to find out, subscribe to the channel and keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah.
Right, Connor, last question, over to you.
So, Marlon Bonelli, as grease or anti-seize can affect the K factor, how does this change torque readings on crucial parts such as bottom brackets? Is this accounted for when manufacturers calculate the specified torque readings for these components? My
answer is yes. I'm going to just assume you're not entirely sure what K factor is.
I'm not sure.
I had a feeling you might say that. Do you know, I had to look it up to check. It's essentially the relationship between the resistance in the thread and the clamping force on the part that you're trying to do up. And I think we all know when we're assembling our bikes, we should make sure we put lubricant on the threads so that the resistance in the thread isn't impacting the clamping force of the part. That's the answer.
Yeah.
So basically, lubricate everything up, and then the torque that you apply onto the threaded component will clamp it down as is intended to, rather than like resistance in the system. So there you go. Job done. That was it for this week's GCN Tech Clinic. Hope that has answered your questions. As always, I apologise we haven't got to them, but be persistent. Put them in the comments section down below, and we will get to them in the coming weeks. Right, we're out of here. See you later.